Now, if you made banana bread while you're stuck at home in quarantine, good job. I'm really proud of you. But I think it's time we take your baking game up a notch by making this. Okay, so today I'll be making cheesecake brownies from these ingredients. I adapted and modified this recipe from Preppy Kitchen. Be sure to check out his original video, which is linked down in the description. Also, I don't have anything against banana bread, so don't get offended if you like it. That was a joke. We'll start with the brownie. Measure out 1 cup or 120 grams of all-purpose flour. Set that aside and we'll move on to preparing the chocolate chips. I'm chopping up bars of chocolate to make my own chocolate chips, but you can totally use the regular chocolate chips that come in a bag. I also may or may not have eaten a piece of my bar as a snack sometime earlier. Now either way, we're gonna need 1.5 cup of chocolate chips. That's roughly 2 bars of chocolate if you're buying it in bars, and you're gonna want to chop these pretty finely so that they can melt easier. Now remember to separate out some of the chocolate chips so that they don't get melted, because we'll be adding them in later on. Next, we're gonna measure out 3/4 cups of cocoa powder. This will really enhance the chocolate flavor, and try not to make a huge mess like I did here. And to make any chocolate dessert 10 times better, we're going to be adding some coffee. This allows me to introduce the cordless drill, my favorite kitchen tool. On the finest setting of the grinder, I'm going to grind some espresso powder, which we are going to take 1 teaspoon of. You can also replace this with 1 pack of instant coffee, or 1 tablespoon of just coffee, like in the original recipe. Now we're getting to the good stuff, or maybe the bad stuff actually. Measure out 1 cup of granulated sugar and ½ cup of light brown sugar. This does look like a lot, and there will be more later on in the cheesecake part, but it's already reduced from the original recipe, and you're making a dessert, so don't cut out on these. Get a large bowl, and I do mean large. Do a flick with it if you're trying to be cool on camera. Put in 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter, and be sure to save the wrapper to grease the pan later on. In a saucepan, fill it with about 1 inch of water and put it on medium-low heat just to generate some steam. Once the water comes up to temperature, put the bowl on top of the pan and let the butter melt from the heat of the water below. This is called the double boiler method, and I use it every time I'm melting chocolate. The way I had to set up my camera to get this shot of the butter melting over time was kind of ridiculous. But you can follow me on Instagram to see more of what goes on behind the scene of my videos. I'm going to stir the butter to get it fully melted. Once it is, add in the chocolate chips and stir until the chocolate is nice and fully melted. Then add in the cocoa powder and espresso powder and keep stirring. With the butter hot and melted, we're in a way making hot chocolate and coffee with butter, which sounds really gross, but it will really enhance the flavor of both of these ingredients. Now is also a good time to sprinkle in some salt. Keep stirring until everything is mixed together and homogeneous, and we'll take it off the heat and back to the counter. Continue to stir and slowly add in your sugar and mixing it at the same time. You'll have to keep scraping down the walls of your bowl to get everything mixing properly, which is why a spatula is probably very necessary here. In a separate bowl, crack 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. Beat them a bit to get them mixed up, then pour it back into the chocolate mixture, along with a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Mix everything together very well because we're about to add the flour. Once you do add the flour, you can't mix it as much because otherwise gluten will develop and your brownie won't be as soft. Once you are ready to add in the flour, do it slowly in multiple small pours and folding the mixture together gently with a spatula instead of a whisk. Keep folding until you don't see any flour left in this mixture. There could be some clumps left, just no flour. Now really importantly, we're going to take out about ½ cup of this brownie batter, which will be reserved for the marbling effect later on. And we're adding back in those chocolate chips that we reserved earlier and mixing them back in. Once this is done, now we're ready to grease the pan. Take that butter wrapper that we saved earlier and wipe the inside of the pan with it. We're also going to line the pan with parchment paper in order to be able to lift the cheesecake brownie out of the pan later on. The butter here is acting both as a lubricant and adhesive for our parchment paper. Carefully pour in your brownie batter and use a spatula to fill the corners. Also use it to smooth out the top surface, which I find extremely satisfying. Remember to drop the pan on your counter a few times to release any air bubbles. If you've made it this far, then congrats! You're halfway through and you've got a very delicious brownie batter in your baking pan that's ready to go in the oven to be turned into fudgy brownies. You can totally stop here, but we're making cheesecake brownies, not just brownies. So we're moving on to the cheesecake part. Now's a good time to preheat your oven to 350 degrees while we're preparing the cheesecake. In a large bowl, put in 16 ounces or 2 blocks of cream cheese. You can also put this into your stand mixer bowl if you have one. And in case you're wondering, that is the same bowl and I did wash it, okay? It's clean, trust me. We're going to beat the cream cheese into a smooth cream-like texture. So say hello to the cordless drill again, this time with a whisk attachment. If you have a stand mixer, this is literally the perfect application. We're going to beat the cream cheese on medium to high speed for a few minutes. The closer to room temperature your cream cheese is, the less time it will take. Now for this next part, I'm wrapping a damp towel around the base of the bowl because I'll be using both hands. Add in 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 2 eggs, and half a cup of sour cream. Beat those together until smooth and homogeneous. And with your mixer still on, gradually add in half a cup of granulated sugar. Keep mixing until it's smooth, and as a finishing touch, we're going to be adding some lemon juice. And keep mixing that until it's smooth and whoa! See, there's a reason why they tell you never keep your finger on the trigger. Anyways, after some quick cleanup, we are ready to pour the cheesecake into the pan on top of our brownie mix. Using the spatula to smooth out the top just like before, although you want to be careful not to poke too deep or you'll contaminate the cheesecake with the brownie below. Now, cheesecake batter is also much less viscous than brownie, so it'll mostly self-level. Drop it a few more times now to get as much air out of the cheesecake as possible, as it is our top layer and we're going for that beautiful marble top. Once again, you can totally bake this in the oven now, but up next is what drew me to this recipe in the first place, the marble top. Take that half cup of brownie batter we reserved earlier and add in about 1 to 2 tablespoons of hot water and give it a mix. Splash that brownie mix on top of the cheesecake in a few locations and use a skewer or toothpick to connect the dots and make the pattern. Really enjoy this process as it completely transforms the look of the top. Okay, now we're finally ready to actually put it in the oven. One of the biggest problems with baking cheesecake is that it cracks very easily. To counter this, I'm putting my baking pan in a baking sheet and filling it with some water. As it is baked in the oven, water is evaporated and humidifying the oven atmosphere, making the cheesecake less likely to crack. Bake it at 350 degrees for 10 minutes, then after that reduce temperature down to 325 and bake for another 35 minutes. Now if you're using the water method like I am here, be very careful not to spill any water on the oven window, otherwise the glass might crack. Now if you're still watching this video, thank you so much for staying with me. Here's a bonus recipe. If you have any of that diluted brownie mixture left, go ahead and put it in a mug and microwave it for about a minute and you'll have a no oven brownie in your mug. Once your cheesecake brownie is done from the oven, let it cool completely to room temperature, then chill in the fridge for another few hours. And then we get to the final product. And that's pretty much it for this video. This recipe is very easy to make, way better than banana bread. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below if you made this recipe and how it went for you. Also be sure to check out Preppy Kitchen's original video that I based this off of, which is linked down in the description. And then until next time, that's pretty much it. I'll see you guys.